Let's bring in the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan, I know we had a few problems with your connection. I'm glad we've got you back again. I wanted to get your reaction to what Mr. Mamdani said this weekend on Meet the Press.
Well, look, I think sometimes the things you don't say are what people hear loudest of all. And when asked a very direct question, and I'll just elaborate on what Donnie just said. Look, the Intifada was a period of violence directed at civilians. More than 1,000 people were killed in suicide bombs and shootings and stabbings in Israel. And of course, we also saw what happened on October the 7th. October the 7th, the murder of 1,200 people is what revived that phrase, Gadi. So let me be clear. It was notable that candidate Mamdani went to Harlem this weekend. It was notable he went with my friend, the Rev. He went to meet Black people in Harlem on their own terms. I think what Jewish people would want to see is where the candidate goes to meet mainstream Jewish people in a mainstream synagogue or in a mainstream setting and simply says with the same clarity that he brought this weekend, where he met, again, Black people where they are and simply said to Jewish people, I hear you, and here is my plan to protect Jewish New Yorkers, not to fund, more hate crimes enforcement for everyone. That should be a given. But here is why I understand what you are telling me as a community I need. And here is why I, as your mayor, will do certain things. Other than that, Caddy, if he can't simply say, I will be the mayor for all New Yorkers, including Jewish New Yorkers, and here's how I will do it. Here is the plan. Then I think people have a right not only to be offended, but to question what's really going on here. Why won't he give Jewish New Yorkers the same respect he's giving to all other communities?
So, Rev, we saw you in that picture there meeting with candidate Mamdani this weekend. I'm sure you had a conversation with him as well. I think that's what Jonathan has just said is a very fair point. Did you hear anything from him? Have you spoken to him about this? Do you think it's a plan of his to go out there and say to Jewish voters in New York, I treat you with the same respect that I treat Black voters, I treat you with the same respect that I treat Muslim voters, and I absolutely want to make sure that you feel safe in this city? And I think he's got that inability of his to condemn that language is going to be something that keeps coming back to haunt him in his campaign unless he does something that, like what Jonathan is suggesting.
Well, I think he definitely denounced from his speech anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. But let's deal directly with it. Let's not skirt around the issue. We're not talking about something subtle here. Things that I remember 20, 30 years ago, I said things, nothing like endorsing violence, but that was offensive to Jews, offensive to gay people. Mrs. Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's widow, said to me, Al, you cannot take words lightly. I said, but I was just slanging. No, you can't do it. He's running for mayor of New York. You need to take off the table. Do you support international intifada or not? Period. Intifada. Not go around it. I understand you don't want to be forced into something, but I don't think that's what he stands for from what he said to us, and he should say that outright. Secondly, I agree with Jonathan. He ought to meet with the Jewish community, and I think he will. But I think you've got to understand people like Donnie that are offended by many things. And Donnie has had to defend me to his friends from things that I've said in the past. They would deal with this, but what I fear, Donnie, is you have the mayor, Eric Adams, who's running on an independent line named after anti-Semitism. You have this out here with the opponent. And I don't want to see a race where it's blacks against Jews.
I know.
He needs to meet with Jewish leaders so they can see the kind of guy I saw on Saturday. And we need to take it off. Otherwise, we're going to heighten tensions. We just had Jews killed at a museum in Washington, D.C. This got to stop, and leadership needs to make it stop.
I'm making a plea to Mr. Mamdani that from a Jewish perspective, those words are frightening and offensive. And it's not your point of view, it's a Jew's point of view, and you need to understand that.
Jonathan, if he did what you say, what you suggest, would that take away your concerns about his candidacy? Would that be enough?
Well, look, I mean, I want to hear the plans from all the candidates, not just Mamdani. But considering his, past, he was a student organizer for a group called Students for Justice in Palestine. They're the ones who led the systematic marginalization and targeting of Jews on college campuses over the last year and a half. And so when Mr. Mamdani shows up and says, again, I think this is a very important point, Caddy, he doesn't get to pick and choose which Jewish people he talks to. He needs to come to us. He needs to meet us where we are. If he could do that, he would allay a lot of concern. But look, this guy, he wants free buses. He wants government-controlled grocery stores. He's got a lot of big plans, Caddy. I don't know why, considering his big plans, he's going to need a lot of political capital. He's going to need a lot of allies. I don't know why, again and again and again, he simply won't take this head on, like the Rev said. Kristen Welker did an amazing job yesterday, and he had a chance just to literally put this to rest, Caddy. And like I said at the top, sometimes the things we don't say are actually the loudest. That's what people hear. So that's what the Jewish community right now is struggling with. Reform people and observant people, liberal people and conservative people, at a time when anti-Semitism has surged to record levels. The idea of a candidate who won't clearly and unambiguously say, here is my plan, I am with you, leaves a lot of us deeply, deeply troubled.
Okay, well, if he's been watching Morning Joe for the last 3 minutes, he will have heard that message loud and clear. Let's see if he reaches out. CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you very much for joining us this morning.